packed some bags and we headed west. Thought that it might be the best thing for us. I was thinking about me and all the things that you'd leave behind. Family and a peace of mind. And I got you. I am gonna love you till the stars go out. Shelter up above you till they all fall down. We ain't got light, we got love. We ain't got light, we got love.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Easter Pod. I'm your host, Corey Easterday, and I'm really excited today because it's been, I think, a little over 2 months since we last released an episode on the Easter Pod, and we're back. The Easter Pod is back. That's awesome. That's really exciting. We've got some great new episodes coming your way, starting with the one you're listening to right now, and we have some really amazing guests that I can't wait for you to hear these conversations, and today's episode is one I think you'll really enjoy because I was honored to be joined by Emmanuel and Adrienne Threatt from the nonprofit Hope Vibes, located right here in Charlotte. Emmanuel and Adrienne are just all-around incredible people, and in addition to that, they are also local solution cultivators who spend most of their time advocating for the homeless community right here in Charlotte through Hope Vibes. And Hope Vibes was started in 2017, and since then, their team has worked diligently to cultivate opportunities to serve, empower people through awareness, connect those in need to available resources, and create solutions that counteract the homeless epidemic in our region. We had a really, really great conversation where we got to go in depth about a wide range of important topics. We talk about Hope Vibes. We talk about the work they do in the community. We get Emmanuel and Adrienne's perspective on the systemic racial issues our country is working through right now. And I really encourage you to, I know it's a little bit of a longer episode, but be sure to listen through all the way to the end of the episode because Emmanuel and Adrienne share a ton of great insight and wisdom that you definitely won't want to miss. So before we dive in, I have to give a quick shout out to my dear friends, the Talbot Brothers, for providing us with some amazing new music for the Easter Pod's music library that you are hearing in this episode and that we will be working into other episodes in the future. The Talbot Brothers are really great people, super talented, and we are beyond lucky to be able to feature them on the pod. Be sure to check them out by visiting thetalbotbrothers.com, or you can find them on social media at Talbot Brothers. Also, be sure to check out Hope Vibes at hopevibes.org or at HopeVibesCLT on social media. And if you like the show, if you like the Easter Pod, we would love to connect with you. So please subscribe to the Easter Pod wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find us at the Easter Pod on social media. Without further ado, my conversation with Emmanuel and Adrienne Threatt. Well, it's been a while since I've recorded an episode of the Easter Pod, so I'm really excited to jump back in today with my incredible and very special guests. In addition to being active in the community in a variety of ways, and honestly, two of the best people I've had the honor of getting to know since moving to the Charlotte area 2 short years ago, they are also the founders and CEOs of a nonprofit called Hope Vibes that operates here in the Charlotte area. Emmanuel and Adrienne Threatt, welcome to the Easter Pod. How are you both doing today?
Thank you. Thank you for having us on the Easter Pod. We're doing good today. It's been a beautiful day, hot, but I've been working all day, honestly. So, yeah. How you feeling, babe?
I'm doing okay. I'm kind of tired, but in general, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I get that. I was telling you guys before we came on about my propensity to chug a lot of coffee and eating Taco Bell before recording a pod. So
Yeah.
I'm hyped up. I got those soft tacos in me.
You're probably going to have to go to the bathroom soon.
Oh my goodness.
I really, truly hope not. That would be really embarrassing at the podcast.
You'll never eat Taco Bell before a podcast again.
Honestly, that's probably a great idea in general. So
Yeah.
that's great advice.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, I just really, again, I just want to thank you both so much for coming on the pod today. I know things have been really busy for you both recently, and exhausting at times and tiring. So I really am appreciative of you giving your time. You both have been on my guest wish list since I started the podcast, really ever since we connected over social media and eventually hung out in, I believe it was August of last year, 2019, we met up at Common Grounds in Uptown. And I want to highlight as we chat a few of the incredible projects that you're doing in the community. And at some point during our conversation, I'd love to have a broader discussion about the issues of racial injustice and inequality and inequity that our country is grappling with right now. But before we dive into all that, can you describe for our listeners what Hope Vibes is and how you got started?
So, Hope Vibes is a nonprofit that we started back in 2017. It was accidental in our mind, in that we didn't plan on starting a nonprofit, but kind of just fell into what we believe was our purpose all along.
Yeah.
It kind of got started where I saw a video on YouTube I don't know if I originally saw it on YouTube or Facebook, but I saw this video of a young woman who was homeless sharing about her experience dealing with her menstrual cycle while living on the streets. And she was sharing about just the great lengths that she would have to go through to meet her personal needs during that time of the month, and how she would do things like she used tank tops or socks or trash to make them into tampons for her to use, because she didn't always have the money to purchase tampons and pads from the store. And so she shared, and a few other women on that video shared, and it really just, it moved me emotionally to see that women right here in our own country were dealing with a level of inequity because they didn't have the resources to purchase something for their basic health. And so I did what most people do when they see something interesting on social media. I shared it. And as a result of me sharing it, all my friends were like, oh my gosh, I never thought about this either. Adrienne, what are you going to do about it? And I had no intentions of doing anything about it. But the push was so, so big, so pressing, so urgent, that we finally kind of gave into the peer pressure.
Yeah.
And decided, okay, we're going to start collecting items and then we're going to go out. And so that's what we did. We started going out in the summer of 2017, and we went that first month. We had about 15 or 20 volunteers that came out with us.
Yeah.
And each month it grew, and then people started wanting to give us money. And so we were like, well, we should probably make this a legit nonprofit so that we don't go to jail.
Yes.
And so that's how it all got started. We focus primarily on hygiene items for our homeless neighbors, and
More like hygiene solutions.
And yeah, I was getting to it.
I'm just saying, yeah. It's kind of changed.
We started off focusing on hygiene products for homeless neighbors, and that grew into thinking about what other solutions that we could develop. And most of our solutions have been kind of centered around hygiene, as we've gotten started in the past 3 years. But we've got ideas for other types of solutions too, to help that population here in our city and beyond. So that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, and I certainly want to discuss a few of those other solutions you mentioned and some of the other projects that you're working on through Hope Vibes. I'm just curious, though, because we have a bit of a similar story, and I think we probably talked about this when we met up, in that when I was living in Ohio, I started doing the laundry project up there in Canton where I was going to college. And for me, it was, on a really personal level of like, I have a family where I grew up in poverty, and I could really empathize with a lot of the folks that we would end up kind of meeting and helping at the laundry project. Even though our stories were much different, I had that basic understanding of like you said, like this is a need and this is something people are experiencing that is an inequity and an injustice in and of itself. And that kind of propelled me. So I'm just curious because that I started just grabbing friends from college, and we would go to laundromats and we would bring quarters, and we would get kicked out of laundromats because it was unorganized. And eventually enough people had supported it that we were like, I should probably figure out how people can donate money and start, and you could just kind of fall into it, right? So I know for me, some of the stories and things of meeting people at the laundry project that propelled me to keep doing it. For the both of you, maybe what are some stories either from early on in the process of starting Hope Vibes, like as you got out on the street and you met more people? What are some stories you heard that propelled you and motivated you to keep doing it? Or maybe what are some stories of people that you've been able to meet up with and kind of help over the years that, maybe they were in a certain spot when you met them and things are better now? Like, do you have any stories like that?
Yeah, I think definitely for us, I mean, very early on, just even in our relationship, I mean, we were having conversations with people living on the streets, making very intentional efforts to get to know people that were outside of our normal kind of everyday, like, day of life, you know what I'm saying? Just like our work and stuff like that. So we would be very intentional about going out. And I remember, like, we would meet, we met, what's her name? I can't remember her name, her and Anthony. Mm-hmm. And she just reminded me of like my grandmother, and like she's out sitting on a bench, and this was a few years ago, and we still see them every once in a while. But we would have some really cool conversations, and it just was like my grandmother on my dad's side, the one she reminded me of, she passed away when I was younger. And so it just was kind of weird, but at the same time, like, man, this is kind of cool that I'm talking to a lady, and, we provide hygiene items and stuff like that. But it was more about the conversation and more about just the relationship. And, we would try to do our best to kind of, at the time, and even now, we don't have like the resources to get people like housing. But we tried to find housing for them. It fell through, but we still would try to have those kind of conversations. And I mean, I believe it was mutual. I mean, she knew us, she recognized us, and we recognized her and had conversations with her and her husband, and it was cool. I mean, there's other couples like that and other stories like that we brought in into even closer spaces like that. I mean, and I think for us, it's that personal kind of relationship that keeps us going, keeps it like this could be anybody that we know. This could be a family member, a really close friend that is going through. It could be us. I mean, and there's been times where we were like, if we didn't have family in the city, the question is like, what would we have done, financially? I mean, it's tight. It's crazy. So it just brings a piece of reality to it every time we encounter and have conversations, go out and serve, and in any aspect of what we do with Hope Vibes. I mean, it's just like, it keeps it very real,
And I think some of the conversations that we have with people too also just kind of like validify the reality that even though what we do sometimes can feel, in our eyes, can feel small and insignificant, but to the people who don't have access to those things that we're providing, it's huge. And so there are, like, every time we're out, there's conversations that confirm that, hey, it's just hygiene products, but for them, it's not just hygiene products, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember when we went to a tent camp community years ago, early on when we were first getting started, and we were underneath this bridge, and we came across a gentleman at a tent. He came out of his tent in a full chef uniform.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, so you're a chef? And he's like, yeah, I work for the baseball stadium uptown. And, as we were talking to him, it like further confirmed our thoughts about the necessity to be able to wash and dry your clothes.
Right.
In order to not only get a job, but to keep a job when you're homeless. And that's one of the stories that stays at the forefronts of our mind as we've like been intentionally working on the Hope Tank, which is our mobile laundry and shower vehicle. And plenty of times we've had, people say, well, why don't you just focus on showers? And it's like, no, like who wants to take a shower and then put on dirty clothes? Like,
Right.
The laundry component of it is so huge. And we can confirm that because of the conversations that we've had. And so it's definitely played a huge part in continuing to propel us forward in the mission that we feel like we're called to do.
Yeah, and it's incredible the things that you learn when you kind of take that step of faith and you step out of, perhaps your comfort zone. You start getting more active in the community. You build relationships with people. You have those conversations, and you continue to build not only your knowledge and your education about some of the problems, but you build knowledge and education about some of the solutions as well. And I agree with what you said that we think the same things from a current initiative standpoint with what we do with the Laundry Project. We're very synced up in that way, our two organizations, because laundry does seem like something so small, but it can have such a big impact. And a lot of times those are often the things in life that have the biggest impact, or the things we take for granted or that maybe seem insignificant. And, for us, we've adopted like, just do what you can. You don't have to maybe try and solve every problem, because a lot of the problems are systemic and can feel really complicated and overwhelming. But by taking those steps that you both have to just engage all the stuff that you've seen and learned and conversations you have, which brings up a great question. You don't have to boil it down to one or two things, but I'm just curious in general, in addition to what you shared, what are some things you've learned through the course of running Hope Vibes as an organization, whether it's from people you've met or just about running a nonprofit in general? What are some things you feel like you've learned over the last few years?
I think for me, and this is just, so at times I can get very like driven towards certain things. So like the Hope Tank project has been something that we've been working on for over a year. And at times I can get so driven, or like there's some things that are like, it didn't go out the way, and it's like I can get very like hard on myself, but then overwhelmed. And so it's really just like letting my faith in God like really just kind of like, it's going to be okay. God has got us here. He's got us in this position. This is an idea. This is a vision that we believe came from him. And so give it to him and let him do it. And then it kind of relieves some pressure off of me personally. And so that's like, it's one thing to just kind of like do that in just words, but actually doing that in practice. Definitely Hope Vibes has allotted a lot of opportunities for that to take place.
I think for me, the thing that's sticking out in my mind now is that like the systems that are in place to like help people aren't always helping people. Mm-hmm. And they're not always making decisions with the people that they're called to serve. They're not making decisions with them in mind, their best interests in mind. And that's, I think when we first learned a lot of things that happens behind the scenes in some of these institutions designed to help people, it was very shocking and very disappointing. And even now, those same narratives, like we hear it directly from people who are living in shelters, who are living on the streets, and just the things that they experience at the hands of people in institutions that were designed to assist them in many times their darkest moments of life. It's very eye-opening.
Yeah, I'm starting to recall now why we bonded so well over that first meeting, because the things both of you have shared, Manny, for you, I relate to everything you said 100%. Just that idea of needing to, how paralyzing all the issues can feel. I remember when I was 23 and just coming out of college, I came in contact with an organization called Mission St. Louis that had and is still going strong to this day, that had a number of community programs where they were just basically trying to address a lot of these systems. So education was a big focus for them, housing, affordable housing, food. A program we actually adopted from them is called Affordable Christmas that, helps families buy brand new gifts at a reduced cost as a way of like empowering the parents to be the hero for the kids. And they had all these programs going on. And I felt like, oh, I just have this little laundry thing that I'm doing. I remember expressing to Josh, who runs Mission St. Louis, how overwhelmed I felt at the time and how much anxiety and all that. And he said something similar to what you expressed, Manny, in that, I'd rather you do something and try and fail or whatever than do nothing at all. I'd rather you do what you can and step out than just do nothing and feel paralyzed by it. And, it starts out with empathy and you learn a lot. I remember for me, a big thing I learned was, even though my family grew up in a poverty situation, realizing the difference, what you talked about of we're all kind of a circumstance away from it going wrong, and realizing like there are people that a lot of people I would meet at a homeless shelter I volunteered at in Canton, their circumstances it was situational. They didn't have generational poverty. It wasn't like it was passed down from their parents, or it was something went wrong and they're out on the street and that happened and it's terrible. And something else you talked about, Adrienne, is and why I think dignity and empowerment are such big focuses of yours with Hope Vibe, but have to be such big focuses in general, because I think it's really powerful what you said, that a lot of the systems and things that are in place to help people sometimes can actually cause more harm. I'm an optimistic person, so I like to believe a lot of the times it may be unintentional or just, people haven't thought through things or whatever. But I think unfortunately, as we're all learning collectively as a country, that's not always the case. Not everybody has the best of intentions in these systems that are meant to help people, but that was a big revelation for me, and why dignity and empowerment became such a big focus or like a credo for me personally, and why I love the work you do is you talk in your language with Hope Vibes about focusing on that dignity. You even have in your website and like your mission statement that you're wanting to empower people, the people you're serving and the people that are coming to volunteer. So I think that's incredible. I want to focus on a couple of the specific projects that you've been working on this year. You've talked about the Hope Tank a little bit. Can you describe more of what the Hope Tank is and how it fits with your mission?
So the Hope Tank is a mobile laundry and shower vehicle, to put simply. It's a 24-foot box truck that houses 2 full restrooms. In those restrooms, you have sink, toilet, shower, mirror, and the design of it is one that we wanted anybody to feel comfortable in. So we didn't want it to be a space that's kind of sterile, but we wanted it to be like a bathroom that felt like a house, like a home. And so because a lot of times, throughout the research that we've seen throughout the country, there's different shower vehicles throughout the country. And most of them have a similar look, very kind of sterile, has the kind of hospital kind of bathroom feel, where it's designed to get cleaned very quickly, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. We just felt like it was in our dignity aspect of providing that to our homeless neighbors. We wanted it to be like, hey, if this is something that we would love in our house, then this is perfect for our homeless neighbors. And so, with that in mind, that's where all the aspects of the Hope Tank really came from. In the rear of the box truck, there's a 4 sets of washers and dryers, and then there's two 400-gallon tanks in the box truck. So one is fresh water, one is gray black water, and so that aspect of it is something that early on we wanted to establish as well, to be able to go fully mobile. And so that means that we can fill up with fresh water, provide showers, provide laundry, literally anywhere that the Hope Tank can actually go. And so, because, you know, like not everybody, there's not shower water hookups everywhere. And so if a person's living in a tent community and they want to take a shower, wash their clothes, and, you know, they have to, right now, they have to walk to the nearest shelter or find a ride somewhere, maybe a gym. They're not open here in Charlotte, but, you know, they have to find some place to go. Whereas us, as, you know, we rent our home or homeowners, we can just go down the hall, take a shower, wash our clothes. Well, we wanted that same kind of vibe, that feel. And so, hey, if you live in a tent community, you just have to come out your area, just like your home, and boom, there you got access to shower and water without having to go too far away.
Yeah, that's incredible. Access is a big issue for sure, especially in a time like we've experienced with the pandemic that further limits access to a lot of these key resources. Can you describe your portable solar sinks that you created this year, speaking of the pandemic, kind of what that project was and what it was about?
You want to tell them where it came from?
So once again, I saw a video.
We might have to kick her off the internet. All the videos that she sees.
You're watching all these videos and just coming up with all these ideas. I love it.
Yeah, they're going to ban me from like being on the internet because then I find stuff I want them to do.
Yes.
And so I was watching this video of there's an organization in Atlanta called Love Beyond Walls, I think it's called Love Beyond Walls. And they serve the homeless community there in Atlanta. And they had purchased these portable sinks that were operated by a foot pedal so that people who are living on the streets could have a means to wash their hands. Let me go a step beyond that. So prior to seeing this video, I had really been, we had been praying like, okay, you know, this pandemic is happening. What's our part to play in this whole scenario? How can we serve people? What solutions can we bring? Especially for the people that we serve. And after about a week of like praying along those lines, I came across that video. And so the founder of that organization was showing these portable sinks that they purchased that was operated by a foot pedal. And they were installing them in areas around Atlanta and downtown Atlanta for the homeless community there. And I was like, that's it. We need those sinks for our neighbors here in Charlotte. And so I told Manny, I was like, look at this.
Yes.
I need these sinks.
Yes.
And so he started looking for them and they were sold out everywhere. Like all portable sinks for like camping and, you know, whatever. Like all portable sinks were sold out across the country. And even like overseas, they were sold out. Yeah. And I was, of course, very frustrated with that. And I knew that it wasn't just that we weren't finding them because I was on like a national Zoom call with like some different organizations across the country that were doing work in the space of homelessness. And they were asking, it was a HUD call. It was a U.S. HUD call. And they were asking if anyone had been able to find sinks. And so I was like, okay, so there's legit like no sinks anywhere. And so I was like, man, this really sucks because this was it. Like if they're telling us that we really need to be able to wash our hands in order to, as a step to protecting ourselves from the virus, well, a person that's living on the streets, they don't have a means to wash their hands, especially now with everything closed. And so from there, Manny was like, oh, well, we'll just make our own. And I was like, we'll do what? How are we going to build a sink? Yeah. And so him and another guy on our team that helps do a lot of engineering and stuff like that and design, they came up with a design to build a portable sink and took it a step further. I think even in that process, I saw another article about a person in Africa who had also built a sink, and he built it using some kind of barrel. And so I was like, man, look at this. You guys are talking about building a sink. Look what this guy did. And, you know, it didn't have any details in it. It just showed that he built a sink using a barrel. And so they basically took those two ideas and came up with their own design and then added the solar aspect to it. And voila, we have solar powered sinks.
Yeah.
Who like it, and it's crazy because we weren't thinking about making sinks before COVID-19. But as we've been, telling people, like, crisis is the perfect opportunity for creativity. Like, there's needs that are out there. Use that moment to really draw on what can be created to help other people. So that's kind of how the sinks came about.
Crisis is a perfect opportunity for creativity. I feel like I want to get that tattooed. I want to wake up every day and I want to see that in the mirror. That's incredible. I love that. And that speaks to something I love about your organization in general is the innovative nature of what you do and your willingness to kind of respond like that. I'd never heard of portable solar sinks or really portable sinks, anything of that nature. So I thought that was an incredible project.
Me neither.
Yeah. I'm going to have to start watching more videos on the internet, I think is the moral of the story, so I can get a little more innovative. So one of the reasons we originally got connected is, as we've discussed already a little bit, the similar work our two organizations, Current Initiatives, aka the Laundry Project, and Hope Vibes, are both doing, albeit in different communities, in regards to a focus on hygiene and laundry, and also because of the focus on hope. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm rocking a Hope Dealer shirt in your honor. Different slogans, but same kind of idea. I know that one of your slogans you use for Hope Vibes is Give Hope Daily. I see Give Hope Daily everywhere. I resonate with it. I love it. What does Give Hope Daily mean?
So I think, for me, and this is personally, and it might be something different for Adrienne, I don't know. But for me, there's moments where, this life itself can get hard. It can be very difficult and, things and, you're not where you want to be or whatever. And so can feel at times for me, like, it's like, man, I feel hopeless or I feel kind of depressed or whatever. And then at the same time, when you say and remind yourself, if giving hope daily, if I'm at a place where I'm giving hope, it always seems to give me hope as well. Right. So it's like when we're out and about and having conversations with our homeless neighbors, we're in this lane of, we're giving hope and we're giving encouragement and things like that. But what ends up happening is that the conversation seems to as well be transactional. And so then it's like they're giving me hope. And then I'm like, what in the world? I feel so much better from this conversation than when I started the conversation. And we actually would say this. We would say this. It's called the economy of hope, hopeonomics. And it's like this whole kind of currency that takes place where I'm giving hope, and then that hope kind of transfers to somebody else. And then it's like this currency that just goes throughout a community. And it's like, man, if we can live this life where we're just giving hope, you'll definitely get a return in hope as well.
That's good. Yeah. I think I agree with all of that. I think we all have hope to give to others, even when we don't feel like we do. I think that, for one, there's always someone that's in a worse predicament than we're in. And you just never know, like, what word you could say, what smile you could give that could bring encouragement and light to someone else's dark place. Yeah. And it doesn't always take much. Like, it could be something as simple as resharing a post on Facebook. And people can be like, man, that really resonated with me. And it really, it really lifted my spirits. And so I just think that, I don't know. I don't know if it was, there's some person in history that said whoever holds the hope, has the power. And that's dope. Yeah, isn't it? Like, I need to make that into a shirt, seriously, dude. I need to look that up and verify who said it. But
yeah, we need to find that.
But I think that there's something powerful to being able to be a giver of hope.
Yeah.
And to use it to bring light and transformation to communities or just other individuals.
And I think it's interesting too, and this is something that we've seen, is that a lot of our homeless neighbors, they already practice giving hope. And so it's like, you would think that, okay, this person is living in a homeless situation, that they are just takers, or they're just the ones that's just give it to me. But it's like, nah, like we see every single time we go out, somebody that we are talking to that is living in a homeless situation, looking out, providing, giving something to somebody else. They're the ones that are giving hope daily to individuals living in situations that are similar to them. And it's like, man, that just, again, speaks to this cycle of this economy of hope that if generated correctly and right, then everybody, it just feels better.
We've literally been out on the streets at times, and there's been homeless neighbors who have asked to pray for us.
Oh, yeah. Or
like encourage us. And I mean, like, these are not like your like lay me down to sleep kind of prayers. Right, like, right. It's like, whoa, dude, like, how do you know this stuff about me?
Right.
Like, we don't have a long-standing relationship. Like some people that are out there, we've known for a long time now. And so, you know, we can talk about life stuff together. But then some people you're meeting for the first time, and then they're telling you stuff and you're like, wait, bruh, how you know that?
Right, right.
But they're being, you know, contributors of hope. And so it's like, you know, anyone has the ability to give hope.
Yeah.
I love so much that, first of all, another thing I love about you two and your organization is all the wordplay on the word hope that you come up with. And I so much love that phrase you use, the economy of hope, because some of our best and most indispensable volunteers and project leaders over the course of doing the laundry project and being a part of Current over the last 10 years have been people that maybe started out as customers. So that was something for me. Like I said, even though I grew up in the situation I grew up in, there's still that temptation to come in and say like, oh, I'm helping these people, or I'm up here and they're down there, or we're so different, or whatever. And, you know, I think that's the temptation in general whenever you're working with somebody that's had a different life experience or is in a different situation in life than you, to feel like you're the one giving, you're the one helping, you're the one doing the work or whatever. But it's so powerful what you shared, because I think that's the shift, that's the transformation, that's what helps alleviate a lot of what we talked about earlier, where there's a lack of dignity and a lack of empowerment. Because when your focus is on, I have just as much, if not more, to learn from you, I have just as much hope, if not more, to receive from you as you would from me, that creates a mutuality and a connectivity, and it builds a relationship. And it's not like I'm here and you're here, or you're those people and we're, you know, it connects people together, and it really does lead to like education and transformation. And it really, you know, you come up with more creative solutions and ideas to some of the larger problems facing our world than you may have ever thought of on your own, because you're including people in the process. And so it's not a us doing it anymore. It's a we doing it. It's a community doing it. And I think that's so incredibly powerful. And I love that your organization works. And that's why I've really enjoyed following you guys, is I think you guys work to facilitate that and all the work you're doing. You're not just saying, hey, we're just giving you the charity, we're just doing it. You're saying, join us on this journey. Let's learn from each other. Let's share, you know, that reciprocity, I think is incredibly powerful, because some of the most important life lessons I learned have come from people that I may have, if I didn't choose this focus in life, I may have never even looked at them twice on the street or whatever. You know, I may have just thought, oh, that, you know, whatever. So is there anything that, like, because I know I shared a lot there. Like, is there anything that you would build onto that in your own experience?
No, I mean, I think you're right there at it. I mean, and honestly, and I think that goes back to, though, when we talk about like systemic things and bigger organizations, kind of not letting people that's in the current like customers of what they're providing being a part of the solution, that it detaches them, and it's like it doesn't really fully allow for that empathy to be shown through, because it's like you're disengaged from the people now. You know what I'm saying? It's like me versus them. And our organization has the answers, but the reality is how are we going to, as an organization, have answers if we're not connected to the problems? Like, we have to be connected to the problem. And the problem is, connected to people. And so if we're not connected to the people, then we're really not connected to the problem. And then we can't fully have a solid solution to that problem. And so, yeah, I think it's full circle, and it has to be that way, though. It has to be where you're connected, in that way.
What we learned recently that we didn't know that we were doing is that we were doing applied research.
Yeah. Yep.
We were working with this consulting firm for the last few months that worked specifically with nonprofits, and they were just asking us questions about our process for how we come up with solutions and innovation. And, our first answer was, we don't really have a process. We just we see a problem and we think about, how could we fix this problem? But as we talked out what we were doing, they helped us to see it. It was applied research by actually, we're not just some institutions, it's easier to just say, okay, these are the problems we see, so we're going to come up with solutions to fix these problems. But for us, our step before trying to innovate is actually having conversations with the people who are impacted by the problem. And that's applied research. We didn't know it, but that's what we were doing. We would say, okay, we see that there's this issue. How do you feel about it? What do you think should be done about it? What do you wish was different about this scenario? And so we were getting impact directly from the people who were living in the shelters, people who were living in tent camps, people who were living on the benches in Uptown Charlotte,
right,
or in the university area, or in the North Lake area. And so instead of us, and sometimes our assumptions were right, but instead of us just relying on our own assumptions about what we thought people needed, we just asked the people directly,
right,
what do you need?
Yeah.
Which seems obvious, but a lot of people miss that step.
Yep.
Are either of you familiar with the Christian Community Development Association?
Mm-mm.
So I would for sure look them up. I think they resonate with a lot of what you're saying. One of the things, they focus a lot on community development as addressing a lot of the systemic issues that occur in communities on a more micro and local level, but also, in addressing injustices that are occurring on a broader national level. But they empower community practitioners, in communities all across the country to work on this type of development work that we're discussing essentially. And one of the things that I learned from them, one of the ideas that they do is similar to what you're talking about, is they ask the question, they do neighborhood surveys, and they ask a question if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and change something tomorrow, what would you change? And when I was in Canton, we had some friends do something similar called Dream Canton, where we actually did it at a laundry project one time. We grabbed a whiteboard, we brought it to the laundry project, and we just asked that question, what would you like to change, or what would you like to see be different, and allow people in the community to write down their answers. And I've always really enjoyed that as kind of a step, is because I agree with you. I think the most effective programs and solutions come out of that step of being okay, you're the one directly affected or impacted by this. What do you think needs to change? What do you think the solution is? And having that dialogue, I think, is really important.
That's good.
So in talking about systemic issues, I think this is the perfect time to pivot to a conversation I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. You have both been, as I mentioned, on my guest wish list since I started the pod, and I felt it was especially important to have this conversation with you as my first podcast back in light of the current spotlight on issues of racial injustice that was sparked by the unfortunate and tragic murder of George Floyd on Memorial Day in Minnesota. And unfortunately, George Floyd is far from the only Black person to die in a completely unjust manner. And with the high-profile killings of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, and unfortunately many more, George Floyd was not even the first in 2020 to experience this. What has life been like for you both since the murder of George Floyd?
A lot of conversations, honestly. We've had tons of conversations with not only our white brothers and sisters, but everybody, and about this. And it's the topic that is kind of like always there. And we're just kind of, especially now, if you don't spend any time on social media, you don't see it. And so definitely a lot of conversations. And I mean, we spent, about 6 or 7 times uptown. Seven. Some of the protests early in Charlotte, we, were a part of, and, had a kind of a different role, obviously there to, express, our feelings of injustice and, about, everything that's going on at the same time, just being a presence of, again, hope in the midst of this time. And so, yeah, for us, it's been kind of nonstop for a while.
It has.
Yeah. I mean, it's been good. At the same time, there is levels of boundaries you have to put in place in order for rest, because it can be draining, a lot of draining. So first off, I apologize to anybody who's listening that I haven't got back to yet as far as conversations. Because I mean, I got, you come in and I get it when you get it. So
that's funny.
I'm just being real.
It is true, though. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. I think I was telling you about it. They were interacting with me in one of my posts that I posted yesterday, and then it slid over into my inbox, and she was sharing with me that she applauded me for being able to have hard conversations and still show the love of Christ in the midst of it. And she was saying she couldn't do that. And I was just kind of like, some days I don't feel like talking and I don't, it depends on, I appreciate and encourage healthy dialogue and, conversations with people, both in the forefront and behind the scenes. So I definitely encourage it. But some days you just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And, that's just the reality of it. And I think it's because, as I was sharing with you yesterday, I think because we are so transparent with our lives, publicly, we share a lot through social media. We don't share everything, but we share a lot, enough for people to feel very connected with us.
Yeah.
Even if they've never met us before, they feel like we're their friends. And so with that, I think it makes people feel comfortable enough to reach out on individual levels and make a lot of requests and ask. And so for me personally, part of my boundary has been, I don't have to respond to everything immediately.
Yeah.
I don't have to accept every invitation. If it's someone that I actually have a real relationship, I'm more likely to say yes.
Yeah.
But for people that I don't even know, it's like, I don't have to feel obligated to be everyone's personal Google on all things racism. Because here's the thing, I'm not an expert at anti-racial, scholarly,
right.
Whatever.
Right. Just because it affects you,
right,
doesn't necessarily mean that we know everything about everything.
There's still stuff, even from a historical standpoint,
yes,
that even I'm still learning, because it wasn't. There's just a lot of things that I personally wasn't taught in school.
Most people weren't taught stuff in school,
right? And so, whereas there's some people who, I have friends who, and while they were in college, they did a lot of African American study stuff, and maybe were exposed to more things at that point. I took a few classes, but there's a lot of things that even I'm learning during this time period.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of discussion about, June 19th lately.
Yeah.
And, some people saying that, oh, this is a new thing. And it's like, no, it's not a new thing, but it may be new to you.
Yeah.
And
so that's okay, though.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine.
And I mean, even for me, like, I haven't always known about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't learn about Juneteenth until I moved to Charlotte. And it was years after I moved to Charlotte. And the only reason why I had heard of it is because they've done Juneteenth festivals every year, like for forever.
Yeah.
And so, but even then, even when I knew about the Juneteenth festivals, I didn't really fully know
the history.
What the history of it was.
Right. And the same thing, I'm the exact same way. Like, it wasn't until really this year that I was like, yo, this is amazing. This is an amazing time, date, event, celebration. Like, man, this is, something that we need to be, as a country, really do need to be looking at.
And you'd heard the history of it before this year.
Yeah, but it really did.
It hit you different. Like, he was about in tears.
Because it was beautiful. It was a beautiful
different
thing.
places
It was a
on
beautiful
Juneteenth.
thing.
And I was like, why is it affecting you differently this year?
It was a beautiful thing, man. It was a beautiful thing. I just was like, man, freedom. Like, I was at the store. I was at Lowe's, and it was like somebody just came up. It was an associate. He was like, and she was like, Happy Freedom Day. And I was like, what? Oh, Juneteenth. Oh, man, that's beautiful. Man, that's beautiful. Anyway, if you don't know the history behind Juneteenth, y'all gotta look it up. Like, fully look it up. It's real.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I have a few different thought threads.
Sorry.
I'm kind of running.
Yeah, we went on a rant.
I love everything you guys are sharing, honestly. And I do have to call back to a line that I think Manny had in your Hope Unleashed podcast, the most recent episode, that I thought was hilarious. You guys were talking about what life has been like for you since the murder of George Floyd, and racism has, again, become a part of the national conversation. And I think Manny had a line like, oh, I didn't know I was the elected leader of the Black Caucus or something.
You said that?
I probably did. That sounds like me.
Oh my gosh.
I love that.
Apologize, people.
I thought that was on point because you guys are 100% right in that, these issues are not new whatsoever, but our country seems to be on this cycle of awakening to racial injustice when a high-profile murder like that of George Floyd happens, and we see some of the same things time after time, and it can be incredibly exhausting. I know for myself, when I saw that video of George Floyd, I feel like I had a similar reaction, I didn't have all these people reaching out to me or anything, but I felt incredibly exhausted. I felt depressed. I felt anxious. I felt traumatized because I know so many people like yourselves, and certainly, we're trying to do with Current, so many people that are fighting against injustices and inequalities and inequities, that are trying to make things better, that are trying to build on that economy of hope that you shared about. And so it's just like a gut punch. It's gut-wrenching to see something like that and to realize there is so much evil still in this world. And it can be very traumatic. And one of my big takeaways this most recent time around, I guess, is as much as I, as a white person, and the experiences I've had may feel traumatized by something like that or by these issues or feel that depression or anxiety, it gets ratcheted up a lot for my Black friends, and in part because of what you both shared, that you have so many people and so many outside factors kind of pulling on you and wanting to talk with you. And a lot of people are well-intentioned, but you're trying to process your own grief and trauma, and you got everybody else, wanting a piece of you to help work through their stuff. And I think it needs to be said from me, like, as a white person, it's not a Black person's job to educate, to be that Google of racism, like you so eloquently put it. It's not, I don't think it's your job. I don't think it's your burden, but you are both so gracious in giving your time to this podcast or to other people to talk through some of these things. And I think that flows out of the stuff that you're doing every single day to give hope when this isn't necessarily something that's just in the national spotlight, right? This is a lifestyle. This is a way of life for you. Can you speak to that a little bit? I want to talk about the education factor, but can you speak to that a little bit about that cycle that we seem to go through as a country of reawakening and people forget and then all this. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I will say this, that, even though this is a conversation that seems to happen nationally often, and we know that it happens because of, it's typically sparked by some, video or kind of situation regarding police. But this is kind of, and I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. It's like, these are conversations that your typical Black family has every single, all the time. I grew up having these conversations about race, about how to function, how to carry myself. And, when I look in the mirror, and like right now I have long locks, and when I look in the mirror and I kind of like plot out my day, and I'm like, okay, what environments am I going to be in? How should I carry my hair? How should I carry myself? Because there's perceptions that can occur that I don't necessarily want them, to be perceived that way, but just how we are in this country. And so like, these are conversations that your average Black family has all the time. Talking to my son about, even now, like he's 8 and we're having weird conversations, not weird, but having conversations about police. And this is even before he knew about what was going on. And it's like, how do you know stuff? And how do you, and it's just, I say all that to say, like, these are typical conversations for us. And so for the conversation to be really like, kind of like the norm kind of conversation, a lot of times it kind of feels like, you're behind the scenes of like family time, and it's like, yeah, I feel like we have to get to a place where these conversations transform from just conversations and become change. And we're seeing that stuff change into policy, and the foundations that this country was built on, as far as those racist systems, they start shifting and changing and moving toward a systems where those racial undertones aren't there. And I think that's exactly where this country needs to go. Like, it needs to shift that direction. I mean, if it never shifts, then we're not fully making progress. And so, I'm personally, I'm excited to see where things go, because I know there is change coming.
Yeah, I appreciate that dose of hope in you sharing that and being excited about change, because, like I shared, these have been some of the worst mental health weeks for me in the last few weeks that I've experienced in a long time, because it can be so discouraging, right? It can be so discouraging to feel like there's not been progress or whatever. But you're right. I think, that's the hope, is that in this time we are all collectively making a lot of progress, because, for whatever reason, maybe it's the pandemic, maybe it's the video of George Floyd. For whatever reason, there seems to be a larger awakening than ever of people saying, I want to be educated. I want to learn about the systemic issues in the police and in education and in housing and all the ways that race plays a part in that, which I think is great. Like you guys said, I mean, Juneteenth was a big thing recently. I have seen more, and I'll include myself, like that's fine, but I've seen more white people post about Juneteenth than I think in ever before in our history.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing, because this is the reality of it. That's American history. Like that's just as American as the 4th of July. You know what I'm saying? And so, yes, we all should be celebrating that, because that's shows, man, back then we should celebrate the fact that the last of the slaves knew about their freedom. Like, what? That's what American, like, history really should be speaking of. And I don't even think fully, like, we didn't spend time in school talking about Juneteenth.
I've never heard about it in school.
Anyway,
I 100% agree with everything you said. So I'll just share this directly, because I want to talk about education. For a period of time in 4th through 6th grade, through no doing of my own, because I was a child, I went to a school that was located in an all-black church in Akron, Ohio. And so therefore, I should say predominantly black church in Akron, Ohio, but from my recollection of just being a kid, I feel like we were one of a few white families that was at that church. Or, I could be wrong in this fact, but I feel like I was the only white kid that went to the school located within that church. It was a private Christian school. And as part of that, I remember learning about really important Black people in our history and the things that they invented and the things that they did. And that being such a formative time for me, just that education, learning about all that. In fact, I remember I've been processing this particular experience a lot. I don't remember which grade it was, but we went to a reenactment of the Underground Railroad. So wow. I was as this white kid learning about the history of slavery, learning about the work of abolitionists alongside my classmates, and talk about a dissonant experience. Like, I have to be so clear in saying that this education, my time at this school, an experience like that by no means precludes me from these conversations. I have so much to learn as an adult. I have an endless amount to learn. One of my go-tos in situations like this is education. Like, I'm just soaking in all these podcasts. I listened to a really important podcast on Juneteenth about the history of Juneteenth, and it was all this stuff I never knew. So I agree with you guys. It's incredible to learn about this stuff as an adult, because how much would I really retain from being a 4th through 6th grader anyway? But just having that experience, I realized as I grew up that I started to take an experience like that for granted, that a lot of my fellow white peers never had an experience like that in school or in their education.
And fellow Black peers.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here like, I want to go through the simulation.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was, for sure. And it created this like kind of dissonance in me where on some level I felt like I could empathize, with things I never knew before in our history. But I want to get to the point, like, the point of what that experience did for me that I think is important and I want to talk about is it did provide me with education to whatever degree. And that set a foundation for me in life where I became just fully aware of these issues systemically and the need to study them and to work through them. So, I've seen a lot of anti-racist reading lists being floated around, all that kind of stuff. Like, can you both just, so I stop rambling here, speak to the importance of education in a moment like this? And you can comment on my story or whatever, but I'm just thinking through, like, what would our world be like if a lot of people were able to have an education about these parts of our history,
Yeah. One thing that, and I mean, I know you did it subconsciously, and I think is really dope, is that you refer to it as our history, including like, it's like our history. And it's like, it's not just Black history. Sometimes you just like, oh, it's Black History Month. It's like, no, this is our history. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that we fully capture that. Like, this is not just Black history. This is our history, white, Black. And yeah, it wasn't always pretty on certain sides. Okay. But it's our history, and getting it to that point where we understand that because it's our history, knowing it, and then taking it to the point that you took it where, so it sparks this empathy, fully understanding, understanding to a degree. I mean, I wasn't a slave. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up in Jim Crow. I don't know, but I can have empathy because it's like, well, that's my father, that's my great grandfather. And so it's like, man, that's some connection there. But I think it's important that not only white Americans, Latin Americans, but in Black Americans, we all understand our history. And I believe that once we fully kind of like accept the fact that we need to be learning this and, we can have this connection, we're going to see more than just systemic change. We're going to start seeing some hard changes and saying like, oh man, I'm not going to say these things, or I'm not going to do these things because I know that this could be perceived this way. That's really what we're seeing now, is that people are, the stuff is happening, and it's like, well, that's not how I believe. That's not how I see it. Well, it's like, well, if you see it through the lens of somebody else, you can see how that could be potentially offensive. And so that's what's not happening. That's like the key word, empathy, is being able to see things through the lens of somebody else and understanding it through their eyes. And it's like, if we can put ourselves in that position and see it maybe not fully, but to some degree, we're start seeing some heart changes as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's thinking.
I don't have any. I think I like in as you were talking about just your exposure to certain things growing up in the schooling that you had. I just wonder how that same opportunity would have affected others, and if by them being exposed early on, they would have a different ability to relate to others' experience that are being shared now, and not have such a pushback in accepting the reality and the truth of the things that have happened in our past. Because I think that a lot of what is happening is like some people are just like, no, this isn't real. You guys are making this up. You're just being over emotional, without even realizing that this isn't like it just started happening like just now.
Right.
Like these are long-standing systems of oppression that maybe you may have had the privilege to not have to have been privy to. Like you had the privilege to not have to see it and not be exposed to it. And now people are being forced to see it. And I think that that's really hard for a lot of people. But if they had that included in their education, I think it would be a little easier to see those things now in our present day. So
yeah, and I think it's key to get that education early. Again, I mean, this is potential, solutions where you're having like a full spectrum of, history being presented, and not just during like a Black History Month, but like you're seeing throughout a school year, full dialogue on, Black Americans, Native Americans, like this whole kind of full kind of thing. I think it's important that we really start thinking educationally. How can we be implementing these things into school systems at an early age? Because I mean, I just think there's something powerful to that. And
not just the big names that we've all learned about,
right?
And the big key highlight moments that are
the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's,
Harriet Tubman. Like there's so many people that like I knew nothing about until like recent years. Yeah. Like one movie that I want to watch, I've seen like some clips from it, but it's called Hidden Figures. And like I still haven't seen it yet.
I don't think I have either.
But like the history behind it, like the lady who created like the GPS system, the Black lady, like never learned about that in school. Like there's so much that good stuff and bad stuff that I don't even know because it was omitted from the history that's taught in our public school systems.
And we know that obviously history can't be exhausted. Like you can't go full, but there's things that definitely, I just feel like it's like, yo, we could talk about this. You know what I'm saying? Like it just would do so much in the foundation of all students, whatever their ethnicity.
Yeah. And I mean, not just the good stuff.
Yeah. Not just the good stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's history. Yeah, talk about the hard stuff.
Needs to be shared too.
Yeah.
We were, one of our friends shared this post recently about, I don't even know why I'm going here. I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
She shared a post about how, that's why I'm sharing it. How like in when we read the scripture, actually a white person wrote this post. When we read the scripture, she said, we as in her other white brothers and sisters, we see ourselves as the victors in the stories or the victims. We see ourselves as the good person in the story.
Right. So if you're reading David and Goliath, you're David, or children of Israel versus Egypt, we're the children of Israel.
Instead of seeing like okay, in parallel,
Yeah.
sometimes in history we've been the bad guy in the story. And so I think it's the same way in education and the history that is presented to students. I think a lot of times there's been certain demographics that have been set up as the good guy in history and intentionally left out certain parts of history to promote that particular narrative.
And I mean, even the victim, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know, like, I just think it's big, and there's opportunity there for growth and to go really deep into the issues like that we've
and
been
here's
through.
here's my where our stance is a little bit different from maybe some. I don't think that the purpose or the intent behind that education is to condemn another group of people, to say, oh, all white people are horrible, you're trash, and you need to pay for what you've done to us by giving me my 40 acres and a mule.
Don't just edit that piece out and just have that piece.
Like, I don't feel like the goal is to make, like, to shame all white people and like force them into apologizing to every black person you see, and you got to go and shine every black person's shoes like the pastors did on that interview with Lecrae recently. Like, you know, I don't think
that was awkward to watch.
Yeah, it should have been, because it was weird.
I didn't even watch that part, but I heard about it, and it was awkward.
We understand the heart.
about
We
it.
understand the heart behind it, but
It's not. Nobody's asking for that.
right.
I feel like, well, I can't say nobody's asking for it, but I feel like the vast majority, that's not what people are looking for. What people are looking for is equity and equality,
Right.
Respect, human, just like everything that everyone else can have. Like, we want that for our people as well. And so, you know, we definitely aren't promoting or standing for condemning a whole group of people for what has happened in history and in present time, but just really advocating for people to like look at, okay, here's the reality of our past and our present, and being realistic to the fact that if things don't change, it will be our future. And so let's be open to have some conversations about these hard truths and be willing to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? At least that's where I stand.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that's I love that you shared all of that. I think it's all really important stuff, and I hope people are really taking in and soaking in all of the perspective that you're sharing, because I think it's incredible. I think it helps move the conversation forward, which is I think ultimately what we all want. And I appreciate your feedback on that. It's not, you know, for me personally, my education is not something I talk about a lot, because yes, I did receive an education early on about important people from Black history, but it's a little bit weird because it's not something I chose. I was only a child, and those experiences, while I had them, again, you know, I'm still a white kid in this, and I'm still a white adult, so it's still having to navigate these things. But I do grieve for a lot of people where our education system has failed us, and we haven't been able to dive deeper. I know recently, like, the massacre in Tulsa was a big topic that people were learning about. That wasn't necessarily in schools. That led to a lot of commentary in education. And I know, unfortunately, something that happens is you do have someone like Martin Luther King Jr. who, you know, his quotes get taken out of context a lot and used in all sorts of ways. But I think the conversation we're having about education is important, because I think that is the question, and maybe one of the systemic things that can help be changed going forward is we do have this shared history of our cultures and races and in America, and not all of it's pretty, but I think learning about it and learning about stuff like the Jim Crow laws. I mean, look, it's 2020. We're not that far away removed from any of that, you know? So I agree. I think all that's important. I feel like we're having a really important conversation here. So if you need to cut me off, feel free. I have a few more questions I did want to get out there, though. What do you both wish people would understand and realize about issues of racial inequality and racial injustice, in addition to what you've already shared?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is for people to understand that just because you maybe haven't seen or experienced certain things doesn't mean that it's not happening. And just because one set of data tells you, oh, these people, what they're saying isn't true, those sets of data doesn't like dismiss the lived experiences of people who are having to go about their daily lives in the skin that they've been given. So that would be my first thing. Yeah. You don't have any? You don't have any?
Nah, I'm good right now.
Man, let's see here. I think my second thing, you got some, because I'm about to say one that's really more of yours than mine. For believers, people who are followers of Christ, I would really admonish them to really live out the call to be a peacemaker.
Yeah.
And to be a bridge. And it's hard to be a bridge. In the words of my illustrious husband here, it's hard to be a bridge if you're stuck just standing on one side of the issues.
Yeah.
And so really being open to hearing and empathizing with people on all fronts, and making yourself available to be a tool of healing and restoration. You can't do that if you're stuck on dismissing the feelings that people are expressing, if you're dismissing or deflecting the experiences that people are living through on a daily basis. You just can't. You can't be a bridge and at the same time cut people down. It doesn't work. Even if your whole goal is to, there's been a lot of talk of, what America really needs is just revival, and that's going to fix everything. And people need to get saved and all this stuff. Well, you're not going to be able to effectively witness to an unbeliever, if it is even an unbeliever that you're dealing with, because believe it or not, there are believers who are out protesting racial injustice. But you're not going to be effective in witnessing to an unbeliever if you are tearing them down in the process. They're not going to be open to hear this good news that you say you have.
Well, Emmanuel, you used to be a former police officer, and we talked about that dynamic a little when we all met up. As I mentioned, you both have your podcast called Hope Unleashed that I will link to in the show notes, and everyone should go check out. And you spoke a little bit about your perspective in a time like this as a Black man and former police officer. Do you mind, can you share what goes through your mind, when this occurs, when we're going through a time like this?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because of my time as an officer, I can think through potentially what the officers are thinking, and being in those situations myself in similar situations, obviously not to the point of somebody's being killed, but in those situations where you have a suspect on the ground and you're handcuffing and, a training that goes through. And so it's very interesting if somebody was able to be in my mind to see what I see. And, one of the things that, especially about this past case with the George Floyd case situation, murder, is that it's for so many people, for so many officers, it is very clear. You look at the video and you're like, obviously this is not right. This is wrong. But then there is other situations, other things that might not even make news that are borderline, and it's still potentially mistreatment and, putting citizens in harm's way by police, and that the average person would be like, that's not right. But because of training, because of how police departments function, it's a gray area. And so that's kind of what I think through. And I'm and I have empathy for police officers who are good officers trying to do the right thing. And they are in systems and are underneath authority that potentially can be detrimental, not only to citizens' health, but to those officers' careers. And so, I mean, I watched a video the other day of, and luckily nobody died, but this officer was out responding to a call and ended up talking to one individual. The call was down the street, but ended up talking to, there's like two situations going on, talking to one individual, asking him questions, got his ID. It seemed very cordial. His sergeant comes up without any kind of conversation to the individual, grabs him and just body slams the person, ends up breaking his arm. And you're like, what happened? Well, there's obviously miscommunication going on with these officers. And that's one of the officers' sergeants, so he's not going to step authority. And so it's like they're put in situations where they're having to make, obviously split-second decisions between themselves and citizens, split-second decisions with officers and higher ups in this case. And so it's like, man, many times I say to my wife, I'm grateful that I'm not a police officer right now. So
I'm grateful he's not either. You should ask him why he's not on the police force anymore.
Why?
Well, because I listen to your podcast, I know that's not a subject that we're going to talk about right now.
I do mention that on the podcast, though.
That sounds like an interesting episode. I need to go back.
You're like, oh, I'm not going to get into that. No, thank you for sharing that. Adrienne, I want to call attention to a piece you published in the Charlotte Observer where yourself and 3 other women discuss why you protested the murder of George Floyd. In it, you talk about that initial time after his death, the exhaustion, the grieving process, and you say the trauma of repeatedly having to deal with the failures of our justice system due to racial inequities was a heavy burden to bear. And you go on to write, in reference to the protests, I hope that years from now, we will be able to look back and say together, we went and we overcame. Can you speak a little more about your experience attending protests, what you saw, and what ultimately gave you hope?
The first night we went was really hard. Like, I'd probably say that was emotionally the most difficult night for me.
She cried.
I did. I full blown, overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
For one, we didn't intend on going out. We were actually uptown for something else. And Manny and I and another guy from our team, we were uptown for, I think, a meeting or something. I don't know what we were doing. And so I was like, well, let's just swing by over to the Betty's Ford area. I know there's supposed to be a protest up there, and I just want to check it out and see how things are going. And we actually got there early, right before it got started. And there were immediately things that we picked up on that just didn't seem quite right. In terms of the organization of it, who was leading it. Mm-hmm. There was just some sketchy things, and there were a lot of questions about who was actually leading the efforts and the intentions behind it. But with that, initially things seemed to be pretty peaceful. But there was a point in the evening when things kind of shifted, and it got really, I don't know, the atmosphere became much more tense. I think it was after we were having conversations with police officers. There were a few community officers that were in the crowd and just having conversations with the citizens. And there was a point where there were a few agitators who were trying to turn the crowd against these particular officers that were engaging with the community. And I think that's when everything kind of shifted. Literally they tried to corner a few of the officers that were by themselves having conversations with people, and tried to attack them. And emotionally, that really, I don't know, it really made me upset, because it was okay, here's someone who appears to really understand why we're out here. He's concerned about some of the same things that we're concerned about, and he's willing to have a conversation. He's willing to own up to the fallacies and the mishaps of departments across the nation, but we're going to attack him. Like,
Yeah.
It didn't sit well with me, and things just began to ramp up from that moment. And so that was just, it was hard to see because it's not what I stand for. I'm not one of those people who thinks that all police officers are bad, just because the system is faulty.
Right.
Like, the system is jacked up. It has some very serious issues. I've refrained from saying the system is broken simply because I was talking to someone one time and they were like, no, it's not broken. It's functioning the way it was originally designed to work.
Wow.
So it's not broken. It's doing what it was created to do. And so I said, faulty systems with, issues that need to be addressed. And so with that, I acknowledge that, but I also recognize that there are some officers that are genuinely, they want to do what's right. They want to help people. And so to see, a group of people try to attack an officer that they don't know that he hasn't killed anyone that they know of. They don't know anything about him.
Right.
I had an issue with that. I don't think I talked about that in my article, but that was kind of like the jumping point for our experiences on the streets. But I will say that there was a lot of good things that we saw happening over the course of the 8 or 9 days that we went out. And we had a lot of opportunities to have great conversations with young people.
Yeah.
And so my hope, someone asked me yesterday, do I see things changing in the future? Like, do I believe that, like, there can be racial justice and, equity and equality and all this stuff? And it's like, I can only hope that it will be just like, those who have gone before us, Martin Luther King, for example, like he hoped
Right.
that it would happen. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime. I can just only hope that it will at some point happen so that, my children's children will have a better experience than what we're seeing today. So yeah.
I did feel like one of the, because you talked about in your article kind of seeing people come together and how, parts during the protests that was really encouraging to you, like seeing allies out there handing out water and snacks and seeing people peacefully protesting. I know from your following you on social media that you saw this too, but I thought the Black Lives Matter mural in Uptown was pretty cool. My wife and I had a chance to go check it out. Were you guys able to go see that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. It was, for me, it was a very kind of like emotional. I don't know. Maybe this whole thing is making me emotional. Oh, goodness gracious. But
me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, man. We went up there and it was beautiful because, so this is what we saw it after it had been ran over and tire marks through it. And it was, even in that, it was kind of like, this is a testament to the resilience of the Black community. Like, like, what in the world? Like, this is it. And still we're out. People of all races and backgrounds are out looking at this beautiful piece of art and the art that's on the boards on the buildings, businesses that were aside. And it was just, I don't know, it was almost like a celebration. It was almost like a block party kind of thing. And it was beautiful. It just, it really spoke to unity to me, and just seeing just the colorful art and seeing something that the city, is behind. And so, yeah, I was encouraged when we got out there and saw it, and I enjoyed the time while, being out there with my son, letting him see it, and just being a part of history. That's what it felt like. It was like, man, this is a historic moment for the city. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's monuments and like little markings throughout uptown Charlotte that, it says, hey, this happened here. And it's like, man, in like, 20, 30 years, 50 years, the road might not be here like this anymore, but like there's going to be a marker here that says on this day a mural was posted. Like, what? That's so cool. And just to be able to be a part of that, I think it was super dope.
Yeah, I'm going to add in a reminder for myself here that we're going to link to Charlotte is Creative put together a really great article where they linked to all of the artists that did the mural and their information, their artist statement, where people can donate to support them. So I'm going to link to that also in the show notes so people can read up on the mural and everyone that was involved. But yeah, I felt some similar things being able to see it. And I think it was incredible they did that. What do you feel a slogan like Give Hope Daily means for us now when applied to these issues of systemic racism?
I think just going back to the very intentional meaning, that hope is something that we all have. We just have to look at ourselves and find the avenues to give that hope. And so those three words, give hope daily. So giving hope is something that is selfless. Right. So I have to be selfless. I can't retain hope and keep it to myself. I have to give that. And then the daily part of it is that it's a very intentional thing every single day, finding ways to give hope. And so I think having those three words as, a motto for my personal life, it allows me to be very intentional about how I go about my day. And so I would encourage anybody, if even if it's not something that you say every day, but just remembering that if you're giving hope every single day, then there's really no room to be hopeless.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Give Hope Daily has a lot of applications every day to all the issues we're facing. And one of the reasons I love that slogan, another thing you describe yourselves as are that you're local solution cultivators. Again, I love the vocabulary. You're cultivating opportunities to serve. You're solution cultivators. So as we kind of wrap up our conversation here, for anyone that's listening and they're thinking, maybe they're similar to some of the emotions we've expressed of feeling anxiety or depression, or they're feeling overwhelmed by all the issues, maybe they don't know where to start. What are some practical things that we as a community can do to move forward and confront these issues? And what are some things that people can do in their own community, wherever they may be, to get involved and create sustainable change long after this conversation has faded from the spotlight?
I think engaging in healthy conversations with people who don't share your lived experiences is one way to continue to move forward, to learn and to grow. Connecting with different organizations that have been already doing the work of anti-racism and social equity long before this flashpoint moment that we're in now. And that's something we didn't really talk about this earlier, but there's been a lot of controversy about whether or not people should support the organization Black Lives Matter. And my thing is there's so many other organizations that started long before them and even after that people can get behind and learn and support and gain knowledge and ideas for being a part of solutions from. And so do the intentional work to find out who those other organizations are, who those leading voices are who've been pushing the needle on these issues that have, been that are surrounding systemic disparities for a long time. There are a lot of voices, and not just there, and it's not just Black people who are narrating this conversation. I watched this video of this lady a couple of nights ago. Manny had heard of her, but I had never heard of her. It was a older white lady, and she was pretty gangsta. And she really was challenging some students on the whole notion of white privilege. And It just, to me, it spoke volumes, just to see someone who didn't share the same color of my skin, communicating to others, what the issues really were. So I would just say, find those voices and be intentional to, if it's a conversation that's hard for you to digest already anyway, like don't make your intention to look for the voices who echo what you already believe.
Yeah.
Be willing to hear a diverse base of voices that are addressing these issues.
That's good.
I don't want to be presumptuous, but I feel like we're all friends here. Let me personalize it a little bit. Based on our conversation, what we've shared, what do you think, I myself specifically, what do you think some next steps are that I could do?
I think you're doing it, honestly. I mean, I think conversations like this is important. I think, being able to continue to learn, and it seems like that's what you do, is important. Educating yourself. And so, I mean, these are all things that, like Adrienne was saying, that's really what has to happen, though. I mean, and in your circles, being able to be a voice of balance in certain circles. Because sometimes there's like, I mean, we all are in certain areas and around certain people in certain circles that it's like, yo, that's over the top. Like, bring it back. And it's like, they just might not hear a balanced voice. And so, yeah.
I think my answer to that question is, I don't know. And I think that my answer to that question is, I don't know, because I don't think it's any person's place to tell you what your next steps are in this scenario. Like, I feel like, we've got a lot of people that are, they're forcing companies to make a statement and to make a stand on certain issues. And,
straight bullying people.
I feel like, that kind of approach isn't really all that effective, because then you have people that are just doing stuff to save face, and to preserve the bag, keep the coins coming. But I think that's a question that every individual has to ask themselves. I don't think that there's one answer that is a one size fit all. This is what everybody needs to do. Right. I think everyone's capacity and abilities to affect change varies. And so what my strong point may be completely different from his. Yeah. And so there's some people that I know, like, they're connected in government. Yeah. They need to be talking to the people who have the ability to bring change in law and in policies and that kind of situation. You may not have that level of influence in those spheres. So I can't tell you, hey, you need to go and try to change some laws and some policies, right? Right. But there are some people that can. And so I think for each person, there has to be self-evaluation that takes place. If you're a person of prayer, then that's the place to start. Yeah. What can I do to be a part of the solution? What's my part to play in bringing justice in this area? Right. And then going from there. I don't think a person can tell you this is what you need to do. And
you might not agree with me on this, but I don't
agree.
I don't think everyone is a racial justice champion. Like, everybody might not be that. They might have. Explain
what you mean. I don't think everyone has the same level of engagement.
Right. But still,
I just think it looks different.
But like, you might have, an individual is like, they just want to learn. And that's all they might not be out vocalizing anything, but they just want to learn and want to have a clearer perspective on racial equity.
Yeah, but there's still action that comes with it. That might be the way you raise your kids. Yeah. Teaching your children. Yeah. To me, that's an action step that some people need to take. Yeah. And so I think championing the cause looks different for every person. Yeah. So you might not be, doing podcasts. Right. Because that's not your thing. Right. But whatever your skills are, whatever your abilities are, and there may be some untapped abilities that you don't even know exist yet, but just exploring and doing the self-evaluation and reflection of, okay, what do I have to offer in this? And in what areas do I need to grow? And then be willing to make the steps from there.
I vibe with it.
Yeah, it's on each of us to, as we discussed earlier, do what we can and do the next right thing. So, yeah, I appreciate you both sharing all that. I think, this is definitely going to be the longest conversation I've had on the Easter pod to date. I think I told you guys first time I reached out 40 minutes, then I told you an hour, and now we're pushing past an hour and a half. But I love it because I think it's important. I think it's a conversation. I think you guys have shared a lot of things that, like I said earlier, I hope people really, really soak in and listen and learn from. And I just know that, I have gained great encouragement from our conversation today. And I've learned a lot. I think we're all learning a lot from each other. And I think our conversation today is a prime example of what you spoke to earlier, Adrienne, about the need to have healthy dialogue about these issues, because we all do have different perspectives and are coming from different places. And, it is on each person to do what they can and take that time to reflect and figure out how you can act. And, not just, I think it's easy. Like, I think we were talking about this on the phone yesterday. It's easy in times of trauma and grief and all that. Everybody processes and expresses it differently, but we want to see change that is sustainable and that outlasts this being kind of what just everyone's talking about right now. So I think those are great places to start, everything you guys shared. And as we discussed at the beginning, Hope Vibes, to me, is one of those organizations that is out there that is making a change, having a positive impact. Emmanuel and Adrienne are two people living out that slogan of Give Hope Daily. So for our listeners, where can we follow each of you individually? I know that you are social influencers in your own right on your own social media accounts. And where can we go to follow and learn more about Hope Vibes as an organization?
You can follow us on all platforms at Hope Vibes CLT.
Except Snapchat. I don't think we're on Snapchat.
We're not on Snapchat?
We're not cool enough for Snapchat.
Or TikTok. So we're not on TikTok. So you can find us on the platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Hope Vibes CLT. And their website, hopevibes.org.
What about do you want, you don't have to put those out there, but do you want to put out your own social handles?
Adrienne, she actually posts a lot more than I do. So I can post it. I can shout out hers. Hers is Yo Adrienne _ What is it?
Just Yo Adrienne CLT.
Oh, that's right. So Yo Adrienne CLT. So yeah.
I thought that was a clever name because
it's perfect.
I finally watched Rocky the other month. So.
For the longest, like for years, people would come up to me and be like, Yo Adrienne, and I'd be like, hey, like I didn't. Hey. I mean. I'm for real, like there was people that would do it all the time and I just didn't understand why they were doing that. I had seen the movie, but it was like when I was much younger and I did not remember that reference in the movie. And so
it's okay.
Yeah, I was definitely a young adult by the time I realized, oh, okay, Rocky, this is what's going on. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why everybody's yelling at me.
Yeah.
I just totally didn't get it.
That's incredible. Well, Emmanuel and Adrienne Threatt, thank you both again so much for being willing to come on and chat with me today. I think you are both leading the way in Charlotte and in a much broader sense when it comes to promoting dignity and empowerment and creating change. And it is an honor to know you both and to be able to chat. So thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.